Again, that was U.S. Congressman Rick Larsen earlier today on Capitol Hill. Now let's get back to our guest. Still with us is CGTN correspondent Wang Guan, who joins us from Palm Beach, Florida. And here with me in the studio is Dennis Wilder. He is a China expert who worked for George W. Bush in that administration. Wang Guan, as we heard there from the congressman, there are clearly differences between China and the United States on a wide range of issues, trade issues, the DPRK's missile and nuclear program, as well as issues surrounding the South China Sea. What are expectations from the Chinese side for this summit?
Well, basically, I've been talking to my sources from the Chinese Foreign Ministry, and they've really been downplaying the expectations, saying that this is a very important first step towards building a great relationship. The purpose of this trip is really about having the two leaders to meet each other, to establish a good personal rapport. So going forward, they can have all kinds of working groups, consultation mechanisms in place to tackle specific problems. That said, I think the Congressman Larsen did bring up some interesting issues. First of all, he's saying basically China is not doing enough in North Korea. I think President Xi is probably will tell President Trump, if not already, that well, Beijing has been doing a lot. In fact, it has been on board for 8 rounds of UN sanctions against the DPRK. This February, stopped export to Pyongyang 160 kinds of equipment and materials. And this January, China stopped import of coal from North Korea, the DPRK, a major source of its export. So what does the U.S. want China to do more? I mean, does it want China to see a collapsed North Korea? If the United States has one southern border problem to secure, think about China. China has 17 borders, and North Korea is just one of them. If the regime collapses, what about the refugee issues, illegal immigrant issues? So the last time we checked, the President of the United States still wants a wall.
Dennis, I just want to get your thoughts on this, on the DPRK's missile and nuclear program. It's not going to be easy to resolve. Add to that the fact that the United States wants to deploy the THAAD anti-missile system in South Korea. That is something that the Chinese oppose. How do the two sides make progress on this?
Well, I think that the two sides have to figure out how to strategically deal with a security problem in Northeast Asia. After all, it's not the fault of the United States or the fault of the Chinese that the North Korean leader has taken the wrong moves. What we have to do is together convince the North Korean elite and the North Korean leader that the best path forward for North Korea to become a prosperous nation is to take the path of economic reform. That nuclear missiles actually reduce his security, not increase his security. And that strategically, he has got to take a different turn. Otherwise, as President Trump said, the United States may feel it's compelled to take some unilateral actions that will be not in the interest of world peace and security.
What does that mean? Would the United States attack the DPRK?
Well, at the end of the day, I think it's very hard to see an American president allow North Korea to have an intercontinental ballistic missile tipped with a nuclear weapon out on a launch pad. And I would ask people what they think the United States president should do in that circumstance. We are not targeted by any countries today with nuclear weapons. This would be a country that clearly is saying that it would have weapons targeted on the United States. Some of the rhetoric from North Korea is rather chilling and blood-curdling.
Wang Guan, let's get back to you. As you are aware, President Trump has been very strident in his criticism of China. And there was a report that moved on Reuters earlier on. Reuters said that Trump appears to have set himself on a course for collision rather than conciliation with President Xi. Is there a risk here that these two ladies may not find much common ground on the issues that divide them?
Well, sources close to the Chinese president told us that since the inauguration of President Trump, China has adopted this strategic patience, if you will, a wait-and-see attitude to wait until President Trump's cabinet get fully formed and positions filled, and also his national security team in place. Beijing has been saying that they need to distinguish President Trump's tweets from his action and his words from action. So basically, China has been very consistent when it comes to its foreign policy towards the United States is China's top foreign policy advisors, Yang Jiechi, Wang Yi, and Wang Guan are both international relations experts. They have been on board with President Xi for the past 5 years. So on the Chinese side, people have been expecting a consistent U.S. Foreign policy towards the U.S. So here it comes in Mar-a-Lago, in the estate behind me, the two leaders are talking. So Beijing thinks this is a good first step, and it's an important step, and it is a step in the right direction.
Dennis, the United States President said earlier in an interview with the Financial Times this week that trade is the incentive for China to cooperate with the United States. Could he use that as a leverage to get what he wants?
I think the president is trying to say that China benefits greatly from the United States market for its good. After all, China has a very large trade surplus with the United States.
But so does the United States.
Well, the United States does a lot of good business in China as well. I agree with you there. But I think what we're looking at on the U.S. side is trying to figure out how the trade can become more reciprocal, how China can allow our companies to do more business in certain areas, how China can invest in U.S. firms in the United States to help the American economy. You know, we've helped the Chinese over the last 30 years become a very prosperous nation. In some ways, it's time for a rebalance of that economic relationship, and that's what President Trump is trying to say.
If we look at the Trump presidency right now, it's very early in the presidency, and this meeting is, as I pointed out, taking place very early in this presidency. Numerous, in fact hundreds, of key foreign policy positions have not yet been filled. Right. The Trump administration has not enunciated a clear China foreign policy. Will that impact these talks taking place?
I think, to be very candid with you, as a former official in the United States government, the Chinese side is more prepared than the United States for this meeting. I don't think that President Trump's team has worked out a comprehensive China policy yet. So yes, in some ways, this meeting is coming very early. U.S. presidents have not met with the Chinese president this early. So in some ways, this is an experiment, and let's hope it goes very, very well.
Wang Guan, one final point, and I've only got 30 seconds for this, and that is the deep concerns that China has over climate change, as I pointed out in that interview with Congressman Larson, and those concerns are not shared by this current U.S. administration. Is President Xi going to push this up the agenda to make it an important thing that they need to talk about?
Well, again, I don't think President Xi will be pushing aggressively on anything on his agenda. After all, this is a meeting that is about setting goals for strategic concerns and deciding where they want this relationship to go. But in my interviews with U.S. governors and mayors, they do want a cooperative relationship in terms of climate change. After all, this is the future where jobs can be created and the economy can be developed in a sustainable manner.
Okay, Wang Guan in Florida, Dennis Wilder with me here in the studio. Thanks to both of you for joining us. That's it for this edition of The Heat. Please stay with CGTN for more in-depth coverage of the Xi Jinping-Donald Trump meeting in Florida. Thanks for being with us.